All right, Dalton, our number 3 tight end in college football is a guy who hasn't played in practically 2 years. It is Brant Kuithe out of Utah, who missed all of the 2023 season with a torn ACL, and he missed all but 4 games of 2022 with that torn ACL as well. So, man, for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, he's our number 3 tight end in the country. How on earth is he a top 3 tight end in college football?
Well, the reason for it is anytime he's been on the field, he's been incredibly efficient, right? 3 years, Max, inside the top 8 for tight ends in yards per route run, 2019, 2021, and 2022. Across 2020 and 2021, he had 25 forced missed tackles, which led the nation. Just receiving grades above 70 is in every season of his career, going all the way back to 2018. We have seen enough from Brant Kuithe to know that he's a really darn good football player. Now he just has to recover even further from a knee injury. We kept hearing, last year that week to week, it seemed, he's going to come back soon. He's coming back soon. And then he just kind of didn't. You would hope there wasn't some sort of devastating complication from his injury. But anytime he's been on the field, he's been a borderline elite player at the position, certainly a top 10 player. And this year, if he comes back healthy and there's not a ton of other receiving threats on Utah's team right now, he would still be the number 1 receiving threat there. And if he's anything close to what he was the first 4.5 years of his career, he's still a big-time tight end, even though his frame might not be the same as a lot of these other guys we have in our top 10. He's a spectacular player with good hands and really, really good speed that can do things after the catch.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy, it's almost like 24 months is going to be for Brant Kuithe before he comes back from that injury. Usually torn ACLs are like 6 to 9 months, honestly. So it sucked. It was him and Cam Rising. It felt like from week 1 until like week 10 when they're finally like, okay, they're not coming back. It felt like, okay, this is the week. No, this is the week. This is the week where Cam Rising's come back. This week when Brant Kuithe's come back. They never did, honestly. And that was really disappointing. But now both of them come back for their 7th seasons, Dalton, of college football. We said it before how they're part of the 2018 recruiting class. In that 2018 recruiting class at number 1 was Trevor Lawrence, who's about to get a big second contract in the NFL. Justin Fields is number 2 as well. So pretty funny looking back at that. And just, they've been around college football for a long, long time. The reason why, like you said, he just was dominant, man, from 2019 to 2021. He was named to PFF's All Pac-12 team in 2019, in 2020, and in 2021, and was a 3rd-team All-American as a sophomore in 2019. Over those 3 years, I should say, he led all FBS tight ends with 31 forced missed tackles and the 5th most receiving yards in that span at 1,449. So from 2019 to 21, he was absolutely outstanding. It's just the last 2 years, we basically just haven't seen him on the field really at all over the last 2 years. So obviously a really, really talented player when he's on the field, Dalton. What are some of the negatives, though, with Brant Kuithe right now?
I think the negatives just come from having a smaller frame, right? I think of him in the same light that I thought of, say, Jaheim Bell from Florida State and South Carolina the last couple of years, where you're not going to get those big tight end plays, right? Like a guy like a Mitchell Evans or Caden Prescorn or the bigger 6'6" and 250-pound guys, right? Smaller guy hovers around 230, only 11 of 32 on contested targets in his career. He's just very much more of that movable weapon. He's a tight end, but not in the classic sense, right? You got the H-back thing. He can play in the slot. He makes plays after the catch. I very much think of him in the same vein as a Jaheim Bell, who is a playmaker, but he's small enough to think like, okay, in the NFL, he's not going to be an every down tight end at his size. He's just very, very small. And look, guys can succeed like that. If you make enough plays with the ball in your hands and you make enough plays after the catch, as Kuithe has shown us in the past, you can definitely be on the field. He's just not the traditional tight end you think of when you think of those guys who are 6'5" and 250, 260, and just these big offensive lineman-looking guys who are running down the field, catching balls up the seam. There's a lot of design looks in their offense. He's really good in the screen game. He can really run. Look, he can play one-on-one with slot corners and things like that. He's a really, really good athlete, as we have a lot of guys in our top 10 here. But Kuithe, he makes plays with the ball in his hands, right?
Yep.
And he makes plays in space. He's just not going to do the big frame things that you see from other tight ends in contested situations or blocking or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. And obviously the big thing with him, the biggest question with him is just whether or not how he's going to look, man. I mean, how he's going to look after a devastating knee injury like that, after a torn ACL and torn meniscus that kept him out for 2 years. I mean, like, it must have been a pretty bad torn ACL and meniscus for him to be out for that long. So that's the big question, is how he's going to look after that. But I think on the field, though, when you're looking at him, I think he's actually a better run blocker than you'd expect for someone who's, less than 230 pounds. And I think the big thing, though, is that he's also, like you said, the contested targets, he's not really that great in. He's in the 4th percentile from 2019 to 2022 in that he caught 9 of his 29 contested targets in that span over those 4 years, which is about a 31% contested target rate. Also has a nearly 10% drop rate as well in those 4 years. So that's another big problem with him, but he is elite after the catch, man, and he's a really, really good separator as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention with him before we go, 2019, 99.7th percentile athlete in our gas metric. 2020, 99.1 percentile. 2021, 100th percentile. 2022, 92.8. This guy is an elite athlete, which is obviously a big product of that of his limited size, but also, man, he's hitting almost 20 miles per hour on our GPS tracking, which is absolutely ridiculous stuff for a tight end. So Brant Kuithe, we cannot wait to see you back on the field, man. It's going to be really, really fun to see him and Cam Rising finally back after a year off at Utah. And he and Cam Rising, that connection is probably one of the biggest reasons why Utah is going to be one of the favorites in the Big 12 Conference next year. But checking in at number 3 on our tight ends list for heading into next season is Brant Kuithe out of Utah.